Hey, welcome to the Razzle Dazzle Show, a podcast where we make connections to the lens of video games and all things pop culture. I'm your host, Jared, and our guest today is Grant Kirkhope. Grant is an award-winning Scottish producer best known for creating the music behind some of gaming's most iconic titles, including Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye 007, Perfect Dark, Donkey Kong 64, and Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. A former composer at Rare, his work has helped define generations of video game music with its blend of memorable melodies, humor, and emotional depth. Throughout his career, Grant has won multiple major awards, including an Ivo Novello Award and a World Soundtrack Award, while also composing for film, animation, and franchises like World of Warcraft Shadowlands, Yooka-Laylee, and Minecraft Dungeons. Please let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and be sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Links to them are down below. And with all that being said,
it's Razzle Dazzle time.
Hello, Grant. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
If I was doing any better, I'd have to hire somebody to help me enjoy it. Grant, I cannot
fancy that.
I cannot explain. I cannot put into words how much it means to me to have you on the show, to get this opportunity to talk to you. It's really, truly a dream come true. I have my own plushie of Banjo-Kazooie right here as my emotional support. So, yeah, I am excited. But before we get to anything related to Banjo, before we get anything about your career, I want to start at the beginning with you. Can you tell me, where did you grow up, and how would you describe the musical background of your childhood?
So I grew up in Edinburgh, Scotland, for the first 5 years, and then I moved to the north of England, to North Yorkshire. Musically, it was my mother was actually a dancer in the music halls of Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. So she was, musically inclined. But my dad was just kind of, he didn't play any instruments, but he was a super big music fan. So I was kind of brought up on Frank Sinatra and Glenn Miller and things like that. The big band sound, the 50s music stars, Frank Sinatra and,
right.
I can't think of the other people, but, the classic, there was Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby and all those kind of people. But I guess Frank Sinatra was by far the biggest thing that I heard as a kid.
Awesome. And I know from the research I've done, obviously you play instruments. Obviously you've had instruments growing up in the household, and you've been in your own fair share of bands for a long time, even, of course, opening for major other rock stars throughout the years. Can you tell me, what was the initial interest within wanting to take up an instrument?
I was 4, I think, something like that. No, I must have been older than that, actually. 6 or 7, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I was living in England by that point, and at school they came around with the recorder and said, "Who wants to play it?" I didn't even know what it was. I just put my hand up. I just felt like I needed to. And it was 15 shillings at the time. So bought the recorder and played that. And I went through the recorder, and then the treble recorder and the tenor recorder. And then equally a bit later on, they came around with a cornet in like a shopping bag. That's all they had with it at school. And I said, "Who wants to play this?" And I was the first person with my hand up, so I got the cornet. So I was playing, I was properly classically trained in trumpet playing, it went on to become. So, and then I started playing guitar about 12-ish. And that's kind of self-taught kind of metal stuff.
Right.
That's what, yeah. So, yeah. So I went through the full classical training, did a music degree. Trumpet as my first study.
Awesome. So explain the transition from growing up with a lot of heavy influences from Frank Sinatra to end up playing rock and roll, if anything heavy rock and roll.
Well, that's all I ever did, right? I started playing in bands from like 13, 14, mm-hmm. and it was always rock music that I played always. And I guess it got more metal as time went on. Mm. And after I finished music college at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester, I did pass. I passed my degree, but I didn't really want to play trumpet. Really, I wanted to play guitar in a metal band. That's all I wanted to do. So I went home after 4 years there and just signed on unemployment and played in bands. So some rock bands on guitar and some a couple of other bands on trumpet as well. So I kind of did that for like 11 years after leaving the Royal Northern College of Music.
Understood. Okay. What was a typical Saturday morning like for you? Like, what kind of cartoons were you watching? What was the scene there?
Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, because I was playing trumpet in North Yorkshire, like Saturday morning was orchestra. So I was in Harrogate and Skipton School Symphony Orchestra, which was like my local orchestra that happened every Saturday morning from like 9 till 12 or 9 till 1. And then I progressed to the North Yorkshire School Symphony Orchestra, which I thought was like, to me, it's like the LSO. It was amazing. And that was like, there was like 2 courses in the year, like Scarborough, Easter, and one in the summer. And then we used to go on to another country and play or do concerts in the UK. So I never really had that Saturday morning cartoon thing because I was constantly at the orchestra from 9 until 1. But I did watch cartoons, of course, during the week.
Right.
But like I didn't really get that Saturday morning thing because I was always doing that.
Understood. Then what kind of cartoons were you watching?
Well, I guess back in my day, it was like
Scooby-Doo.
Well, no, but as a little kid, I was like Thunderbirds and like
Thunderbirds,
Stingray, which aren't really cartoons. It's that Super Mario Nation thing, right? So, but I guess it was Scooby-Doo and Battle of the Planets and Wacky Races and what's the one? Catch the Pigeon, Dick Dastardly, that one, and stuff like that.
Understood. Okay. Do you remember the first physical music you've owned that was yours? Your first cassette, your first vinyl?
Well, it might be an appalling song by Rolf Harris called Two Little Boys. So Rolf, of course, has fallen into deep shame. His paedophilia, etc. But yes, so that was probably that, or something like that from. Honestly, I really can't remember. I'm thinking possibly that, but I can't really remember.
Understood. Okay. Well, this next question requires a bit of context, so please bear with me. As I mentioned before we recorded, I am a producer and audio engineer for an NPR and PBS station here in Southwest Florida. And we have this other show called 3 Song Stories that I'm a part of, where we tell people's biography through music. The guests will come in, they'll pick songs that every time they listen to these songs, they immediately get transported back to a time and place that they have a significant story associated with it. It could be anything. It could be like a small little anecdote. It could be something like instrumental to their lives, something depressing even, sad, whatever. I want to ask you off the top of your head, do you have one song story you're willing to share?
Be on the spot there, like I didn't really think about that. What's something that really stands out to me? All right, I guess so. Like, I was a big Judas Priest fan, right? So we went to, it was the first Donington Park in the UK, Monsters of Rock, and Rainbow were headlining. And the bill was like announced, but just prior to the concert, somebody pulled out and Judas Priest stepped in. And I was a massive Judas Priest fan. So I guess as they came on, and, towards the end, Rob Halford comes on a Harley Davidson to sing Hellbent for Leather. Yeah, that was a moment, I think, for me. Like, I couldn't believe that he got on a Harley, rode on stage, then sat on it and sang Hellbent for Leather. Like, just absolutely fantastic. And I'm still a big Priest fan to this day, but yeah, I feel like back then I just idolized them. I thought they were just the best. Yeah.
Understood. So how does that song fit into your life today?
I don't know if it fits into my life today, but I mean, I feel like because I had the classical training plus the metal background, it kind of spans the whole thing, right? So I go from complete classical to complete metal. So I kind of
both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and I like movie soundtracks, I guess. So, and I feel like doing GoldenEye and games like that, some of that metal stuff crept in there. It might not be that apparent, but I can spot the harmonies or the chords that I might have nicked from Queen Drag or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, something like that.
Okay, cool. And I also know you're a big Harry Potter and Star Wars fan, so
yeah,
I know that John Williams is also a big inspiration for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it. So now to transition and talk about your music now. Your music can go from beautiful to ridiculous and silly in seconds and somehow still feel emotionally genuine. Where does that tonal balance come from with you?
I don't know that really. Funny enough, I was at the premiere last night for the Game of Verse cartoon that's just coming out today.
Right, yeah, I saw that.
And somebody else was asking me about that. And I was kind of thinking, I really don't know. I just think that when you're working for something in media, whatever it is, you look at it and think, well, how does it sound? And so, musicians or composers' brains just maybe work a different way, and they just see sound in something or what the what it's going to come out like. Like Banjo-Kazooie is clearly oddball and quirky, and something like Viva Piñata is very serene and kind of very pastoral. Mario Rabbids is a mixture of like some pretty big, hefty boss pieces, but some super funny stuff too. Kings of Amalur is very serious, like all the way through. So, I just think that if you are a media composer these days, you have to try to do as many different styles as you can. And equally, I just think, when you look at something like Harry Potter, it's clearly magical and all whimsical and all that. And you look at something like Resident Evil, it's very dark and, right. So I just think I feel like the thing you're working on knows what it wants. You just have to give it to it.
I want to know, just to like pick your brain a little bit more. Do you know if there was a soundtrack outside of games that made you think that I want to make people feel the way I feel whenever I make music? And I'm not just talking about your composition in video games. I'm talking about when you were in your own bands and stuff. Like, you want to make people feel a certain way.
Yeah, I think you do, but I don't know whether that's a conscious thing. You just, I feel like you have to write, you have to be true to yourself in some respects. I think sometimes as a media composer, that's hard because you're working with somebody else most of the time and maybe you're not in total alignment. So you need to write what they want to hear as opposed to what you want to do. So sometimes it's a bit of a contradiction. But when you're in your own band or whatever it is, and you're the songwriter, you write what you want, and that's how it's going to be. So I think as a media composer from like 1995 when I started, I was always kind of working for somebody else. So I don't think I've really written anything just for me in a very long time. I have written 2 trombone concertos, funny enough, and they are just for me, and they sound like I want them to sound, and nobody had input except me. And some of the projects at Rare, I collect Viva Piñata, it was written the way I wanted it to be, and nobody had any input except me. But that's not always the case. Mostly the things that I've worked on, other people have had input, like the creative director or the audio director, and so you hope to interject some of yourself in there because I feel like they hire you for the way you sound because they like it, but also you still need to please them with things they want to hear. So, so I feel like sometimes media composers don't always get to write what they want to write. The only way you do that is by writing something just for you in an orchestral sense, a symphony or whatever it happens to be. If you're a pop writer, you write a pop song, whatever. Like, you do that the way you want it to be. If you want to write a pop song out of farts, you can do that because no one gives a shit except you, right? So I feel like, that's the way it is. But when you're somebody that gets hired by somebody else to do something, you generally have to do what they want.
Is there a piece of media that you think fundamentally rewired your imagination when it comes to writing music? I mean, like, you have jumped from different genres throughout the year, so I wonder if there's like something that like plays a big part into the way your mind processes that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm a bit coffee because I was talking too much, so I started shouting. So definitely Danny Elfman's Batman, the first Batman soundtrack, and the second one, Batman Returns, they had a massive impact on me. Those soundtracks are tremendous, especially the first one. Equally, the first 3 Harry Potter soundtracks, because they're by John Williams, the rest of them aren't. Mm-hmm. So I'd say those, particularly the Harry Potter soundtracks, had a big effect on me. I listened to those soundtracks over and over and over again. I mean, not exaggerating, like just for years, trying to learn stuff, So I'd say definitely that stuff. Like metal-wise, all the metal bands that I like Van Halen's a big influence on me, and Queen's right, Queen, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and stuff like that.
Right.
Nightwish, more recently, I like them now these days. A bit of Pantera, probably some heavier stuff here and there. But like, certainly composing-wise, I'd say it was the first Batman soundtrack and the 3 Harry Potter soundtracks that John Williams did. They had a huge effect on me.
Understood. Have you seen Batman the Animated Series by any chance?
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah, Shirley Walker did a lot of that.
Shirley Walker. Yeah, man.
Yeah, she's
freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Okay, cool. And so your soundtracks, again, feel extremely playful, right? Especially Banjo-Kazooie, probably the best example, compared to a lot of other modern orchestral game music. Do you think games have lost some musical personality over the years?
Sometimes I think that, sometimes I don't. I certainly feel that about movie soundtracks and TV soundtracks. I feel like that whole melody thing seems to have disappeared. I feel like You go to a movie these days and it's big and epic and fantastic, but generally unremarkable because you can't remember a note of it when you leave the theatre. I like to come out of the theatre remembering the tune, right?
Yeah.
So and I think like games still contain a lot of melody, and I like that thing. I'm kind of known as a melody writer, or I think I am, and I like to write a tune that people can remember because I still think that you don't hear too many ambient soundtracks at number one on the charts, right? It's if Lady Gaga's at number one, it's probably because you're written a good tune you can whistle to work in the morning, or whatever. So I feel like human beings like that. They like to have a tune they can remember. So you can get arty-farty about it and be all, yeah, but it's the mood and the ambient. But for me, it's like, yeah, like a good example is John Williams in Star Wars.
Yep.
You take away all the themes, it's half the movie, right? So, and he writes, really complex, I call it kind of treading water music. So in the big battle sequences, it's all over the place. It's tremendous. But when it comes to Darth Vader, it's da, 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 da. Back to the kind of all over the place for the battle, and da, 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 and back to the, that's the way you do it, right? You don't have to have plastered wall-to-wall melody. But on the real hit points, the real moments that you want to hear it, it means everything. And people remember those moments forever. And for those little Luke staring at the binary sunset, right? No one forgets that. See it once, you never forget it, right? So I just feel like in games is that the same. There's plenty of moments in games that you can't forget. So, I just think that for me, I always believe that people want to hear something they can remember. And sometimes you get directors have said like, oh, I don't want anything too distracting in this scene. My argument against that is if the music's going to distract me, you need to write a better scene. That's what I think.
Right. So, yeah, I want to expand further upon that, and you've already touched it. Why do you think people emotionally attach to melodies more than the atmosphere? I mean, you've already answered it basically, but like when it comes to especially video games, like there's that interactive part of it, right? Like you are in control of the pacing yourself, and therefore the moments that make the game special or like the highlights or whatever, that is unique to you. It's at your pace. It's all about you, the person, the player at the moment. So therefore, the music is even more personal, right?
Yeah, the images tell the story. The music tells you how to feel. Happy, sad, scared, whatever. I've always felt like that. I just think that's the way all media goes. The pictures tell the story, but the music lets you know, fills in the gap, fills in that human part to it. So I just... as I say, I just like that. Not everybody does these days, but I like it to be like that. It's my favorite thing to do is to create a melody, that people can remember. And when, I'm working on something like Banjo-Kazooie back in the day, I don't really know what I was doing. I'd only been there 5 minutes, literally. I mean, I started in 1995, did GoldenEye for the first year-ish, and then onto Banjo-Kazooie. I mean, and that was the first game that I was all to myself. I did all the sound effects and all the music, right? So I didn't know. I was trying to write something that was just funny and goofy and suited the characters and a bit awkward and all that kind of stuff. And, who'd have thought that people would be talking about it 30 years later? It's crazy to me. So, I was just lucky. So, and I think it's not like you have any kind of grand design. You just write something that you think suits it and hope for the best, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't know. Back in those days, you had to wait for the magazines to review it a month later. So you have to wait a month to see if anybody liked it. Well, these days it's overnight, So it's just that's where my composer brain works. Other people perhaps not.
Do you think that instant gratification, maybe, if that's the right word, or that instant feedback that people get now, do you think that influences how creators, composers, whoever makes the thing, it influences how they make it? Like they're now more conscious about, I need to get this right, and then I want to make it a big hit as soon as possible because it is actually possible, compared to video games at the time back then, or like animated shows at the back then. Like they had to wait months before any kind of ratings or feedback on their production, and they're already like 2 seasons in for like the same show. You know what I mean? Like, do you think?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you're never going to know that, right? All you do is you do your best to do the best thing you can do, right? So you and the team of people who are working on the cartoon, or looking with the Game Reverse stuff, or when I worked on World of Warcraft or whatever it is, you and the team are, or the creative director and the audio director, whatever, are going to be you're discussing the music you write all the way along, and then you get to a point you're all happy, and then you just kind of go, well, we like it. Let's see if anybody else does. And that is it. You're never going to know that, right? I mean, I guess sometimes these days they do play test stuff. So, well, they do that a lot these days. So, like, I just been working on a game for Ubisoft. Just can't talk about this yet. But like, they have had people in playing it, and getting feedback on the music. People like it, people don't like it. So, they do that a lot these days. When they get 20, 30 people in, they all play it for a while, and then they get a bit of paper and sign what they like on it. I like this, I didn't like that, I like this, kind of thing. So you do your best, but you're never going to know until it actually gets out to the most important people are the people that buy the game. It's not the management or anything else. They're not important. It's the people that actually buy the product, watch the movie, watch the TV show, play the game. They're the most important people. They're the audience that you're working for, not anybody else.
Do you ever revisit your older work and feel like you're hearing pieces of your younger self, or do you feel like it's still you all throughout the years? Sometimes
I do that and think, I feel like I was a bit more carefree back then. Cause I didn't have any kind of railings to go for. So sometimes, and because Rare was a very different thing working there. So in the early days, I was kept, quite a close eye on. But then as people got confident with me, I just left me alone to get on with it, right? So I ended up writing what I wanted to write most of the time. Greg Mayles would certainly have a comment about stuff that he didn't like it, but on the whole, I think I was left alone to my own devices much of the time. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was listening to somebody posted a video of music from Dream on Twitter like today, and it was that's the main theme that I wrote for it. I heard it.
I saw that post, yeah.
Yeah, like I was just like, oh, geez, I remember writing that, and like trying to please Tim Stamper and Greg Mayles because they wanted a proper epic tune, and Tim liked drums. It's got a big drum intro at the start, and it's got like the ocean. He knows it's like a C6 chord at the start. It's a bit like, to me, it reminds me of the sea. And I don't know. I just felt like I haven't heard that for a while. And I did end up using that tune in Viva Piñata much later. But I just remember writing it, thinking, it's good to kind of remember sometimes that sometimes things that are simplistic are as valid as something that's complicated.
Yeah.
So you may write some great complicated orchestration, like I do these things these days, and think like I'm proud of it. But sometimes I think to myself, yeah, like it's a big complex orchestration, but it's sometimes a simplistic Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong or whatever it is. Because it's simple, you think it's not as valid, but it is. It doesn't make any difference if it's complicated or simple. Like the theme tune to Peppa Pig's fantastic, right? And it's a dun 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 dun. How fantastic is that? It's not complicated. It took the person 5 seconds to write it, and it's amazing. So I think that you've got to remember that it's not just about pleasing you, because other composers are going to go, "Oh yeah, man, that's great orchestration, fantastic, yeah, I love that." But they're your peers, right? They're not important. It's like that doesn't make it. That doesn't matter. It's the actual people that listen to it. So they might like a simple little tune and think it's great. So, I feel like it's very from coming full circle. I'm realizing now again after the last couple of years, and there's things I've been working on right now, that sometimes simplicity is good.
I can attest to that. Obviously, your work has been now considered legendary amongst the video game industry, amongst music. The industry in general, in my opinion, it has affected so many people, countless people all over the world for years. You've seen this result because you go to cons and stuff, and you see a line of people coming to meet you, and they all tell you, that they love your work on X game, this, that, and how much it means to them, which I think obviously it's incredible. It's important to see that type of stuff now. And a lot of these people have sat with your music, again, for years, for decades now. And for me, someone who's on the younger side, I never grew up with Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Viva Piñata. Never grew up with this stuff. I only got introduced to Banjo-Kazooie and to you through Gerard, the completionist, mutual friend. He was on the show. Through his episodes on the completionist, he expressed his love for Banjo-Kazooie, and because I was a fan of his, what he was saying about the game, and especially your music, has really resonated with me that I picked it up myself. And I also fell in love with the game, with the series, and everything else you do. Like the entire world of Kirkhope was open to me, you know, and this was like maybe 10 years ago, you know, not that long, relatively speaking, of the grand scope of things for your work. And I bring this up because I think it is to your testament that like your work and everybody else involved at Rare or wherever else, Platonics now, whatever, it impacts everyone who's involved with it, who takes the time to like, you know, actually digest that content. For me, like you said, simplicity, there's something special about that. And I agree. Like I've been listening to your discography this entire week to prep for your episode. And that's not unheard of because I listen to your episode, or I listen to your music very often, but I was trying to listen to your music in a different sense now, more journalistically, more analytically. And man, thinking about it from this perspective, just Banjo-Kazooie itself, because it's the best example, there are simplistic tunes and melodies throughout each song that's instant to recognize and to remember. You've said in multiple interviews before that there are people who come up to you and can just sing each note and get it perfect for each song in your OST. Like, there's something special about that, and that also proves that like music itself has a special power to us. Music is a language we all understand, right?
Yeah, I think that sometimes I've had people say to me, "It's got that Kirkhopean sound," right? And
yeah.
I would never be at, as presumptuous to think that I had something like that. But I feel like most composers or whatever do have a thing they do that sounds like them.
Yeah,
everybody does.
Right.
It's a bit like when I hear Brian May or Eddie Van Halen play the guitar, I can spot it a mile away.
Right.
It's just because of the way they phrase stuff or the vibrato or the sound or whatever. Like, you cannot mistake the sound of Brian May. It's unmistakable, right? You know, so Eddie Van Halen likewise. So, and not everybody like that. But I think sometimes you just have it's like handwriting. It's like do your handwriting a certain way. It's just
right.
Like, you know, my brain likes certain harmonies, certain way I use notes to write stuff and all that. I'll probably do the same thing over and over again. Probably, yeah, I know I do. I mean, and I just think that it's what my brain likes to hear. I write music that I like most of the time, and I guess I get hired because it sounds a bit like me.
Right.
Even when I try not to sound like me, I still sound like me. So it may be, my dark harmonies are the same, my quirky harmonies are the same. Like, I've done the same stuff over and over, you know, and I just think that, because I can't help it. Whatever I do, even if I try to sound like somebody else, it just comes out sounding like me.
Right.
So I guess it could be a double-edged sword. It could be like, pigeonholed as he's a guy that writes like that, or it could be the other way around where he writes in dots of different styles and we can't tell who he is. And I think it's probably better to have if you've got a signature sound, then I feel like it's maybe more sellable because people are going to want something to sound like you. They're going to come to you to do it.
Yes.
You know, probably. Yeah. But equally, you might get, you know, not considered for other things because of he's the guy that writes the quirky stuff for Banjo-Kazooie. When I can write lots of other stuff. But also, you know, I will say that, you know, pardon me, for any artist of any persuasion, right, that, you know, photographer, writer, whatever, like script writer, musician, composer, if somebody else in the world likes something that came out of your head, just one other person, right, that's amazing, right? That's someone that gets that thing you wrote or that picture you took or whatever, right? That is amazing. Never mind a few people like it, but it's one person in the world really tuned in and really got that thing that you did. That's amazing. So for me, it's amazing for me that anybody likes what I do. Yeah. You know, and it's, you know, I started doing conventions last year. I'd never done them before, like fan conventions, and I was a little bit hesitant because I thought, like, you know, one, I'm embarrassed to do it, and two, who's going to give a shit about who I am? You know, I'm gonna be sat there all day, not sign a single autograph, and they're going to go, who's that sad old man in the corner, you know? But it's been pretty great, and I did like 13 shows last year. But it's striking at just how many people that turn up and I've got a story to tell about playing Banjo-Kazooie or playing Mario plus Rabbids or playing Civilization or whatever it is, you know, or the one Street Fighter track that I did. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's bizarre that, and you know, everyone's got a story to tell, and it's super humbling that people one listen to music and then go like that, who wrote it, and find out who wrote it, and then come talk to you about it. That's amazing, you know. So it's never lost on me that people care about what I do. Yeah. 1 person, 10 people, 100 people, like, you know, whatever it is. It's not like that. Never gets old with me. It's a bit like that. It's just incredible, and it's very humbling and all the rest of it. So, you know, I'm never going to get tired or be tired about hearing people tell me about how they like Banjo-Kazooie. You know, I'm grateful that anybody gives a shit.
Perfectly said. And yeah, I mean, real quick, just because of the convention bit, Laura Faye Smith told me that you have these little bananas that you sign and sell, and like she was telling me this one time, like she didn't even realize that you sell them, and like other people never like bought any of them, and like she was like telling them, hey, he sells those bananas if you ask him to sign it, and then like apparently you sold out a lot. So I also think that's really cool that like you also play into it. Yeah,
I guess like me and Laura and Sam and Kenny often do it together, because Kenny's Bowser, Sam's Princess Peach, and you know, Laura's Rosalina. I mean, you know, and like I did voice Donkey Kong just for this. So those guys are proper voice actors. I'm not, but we're great friends. So they're a good fun bunch to hang out with at these conventions.
Yeah, something I learned this week doing research on you. You have actually been a part. So I just spent like 5 minutes talking about like I never grew up with your music or nothing like that, right? And that's true. But you have been part of my childhood longer than I even know, or I even knew. Speaking of Donkey Kong, one of my first sets of games for my first console, the GameCube, was both Mario Kart Double Dash and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. And you voiced Donkey Kong for both of those games. So, like, your voice of your Donkey Kong has been the voice of Donkey Kong for me for all my life, and I just learned that this past week. Crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's bizarre. I know it's bizarre how that came around, because, like, you know, when I was doing DK64, I asked people at Rare, anybody want to do the voice of Donkey Kong, and no one wanted to do it. And I got so sick of asking, I just said, I'll just do it myself. I just set a mic up on the office and did the cool and okay and oh banana and all the rest of it, and the and you know, all that.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, thought no more about it. Stuck it in the game, and that was that. But Nintendo asked for the samples after the game, right? So we want to use them. I was like, really? They're pretty terrible. They said, no, we like it. So they used it for a certain amount of time after DK64 came out. So inadvertently, I became the first voice of Donkey Kong, which is like, I wasn't planning to be the first voice of Donkey Kong. And it's amazing how many people remember cool, oh, you know, yeah, okay, and oh banana, you know, from that game. It's quite bizarre, really.
It's back in Bonanza too.
Yeah, well, I know, and they kind of did it there too. So it was kind of peculiar. That, I mean, when I talked to Laura and Kenny and Sam and said, you know, I was DK because nobody wanted to do it, they were like, what? Like, they would love to do, you know, that they'd say, surely, because they're voice actors, right? That's what they want to do, you know. So I said, yeah, I just did it because I got sick of asking and no one wanted to do it. And then, bizarrely enough, I became the first voice of Donkey Kong. So
yeah,
totally unexpected.
Amazing. I just think that's super freaking cool. So like it's a weird like realization for me of like, wow, I love learning more about people that has become important in my life, and realize, oh, wait a minute, they've always been there. So that's you, you know. So like, but back to another point of like, yeah, just. Again, this just goes to show that your music helps connect and bridge lives to so many people. And I'm sure there's like plenty of examples of like people within your line who don't know, at conventions in your line, who don't know each other, who just met for the first time at those conventions and have become fans because of their shared love of you and your work. Again, it's crazy how much of an impact just music alone can have, let alone the full product of a video game. So like, I'm sure there are countless of song stories people have when thinking about your discography, thinking about all of your songs. So I just think that's really awesome. I think that's really cool. And, you know, you get told this all the time, but you're freaking cool. You're freaking awesome. And like the stuff you do is amazing. And as equally important. So thank you for obviously doing what you love, because I understand that this entire career that you built for yourself was all because your friend said, hey, why not try this game composing stuff? And you just did it on a whim.
That's true. That is very true. Robin Beanland did that. He came to work at Red and said, why don't you ever go? But I mean, the British people, right, like I am, we're not really very good at taking compliments, or we get embarrassed, right? So people say, oh, you're awesome, we kind of shy away and go, yeah, like I feel like if someone said to me, what do you do for a living? I'm a composer. Are you any good? I'd probably go, yeah, I'm all right. Right? But if you ask an American that, they go, yeah, I'm awesome. It's different, right? So I feel like Americans are really good at selling themselves, and Brits aren't. Most Brits are very kind of conservative with a small c. We're just a bit like that. We don't like. I detest the ego thing. I really detest that in anybody. I detest the ego thing. I'll never be like that.
Right.
And I just don't like it. I think everybody should just be this normal, and everything would get along. It'd be great. And that's one thing about the convention is that I like about the conventions is that. People can go to those conventions, they can dress how they want to dress, they can be who they want to be, and nobody cares. And everybody just gets along, goes, oh, cool outfit, man, or whatever you are. Yeah. You change your gender, whatever it is for those days, right? I feel like nobody cares. Everybody just goes, oh, yeah, cool, get on, fantastic. And I just think it's such a great, there's never any fights at these conventions. There's no crosswords. Everybody just gets along, right? And I just think that it's just a really great environment. And there are people that come to these things that, are I say socially challenged. They find it difficult. But for those 3 days, I think it's probably the only 3 days out of the year that they feel like the normal self.
100%.
Yeah. And I just think it's such a fantastic thing. And like, the more I go along and see these people, it's like, oh yeah, they're happy. They're happy as Larry for these 3 days. They love it. They spend from the first day the doors open to the last day the doors close on Friday to Sunday, and it's wandering about, different outfits and all that stuff that they do. It's absolutely tremendous. So that stuff's really great. Yeah.
It's I can definitely relate, because for the longest time in my life, I've been very introverted, shy, and self-conscious about myself and like the things that I like, the things I enjoy, video games, cartoons, comics, whatever. And it wasn't until like going through the Army JROTC program that my Army instructor helped like build that confidence in me to basically be like, it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to like what you like. Don't worry about what other people think. This weird made up thing of like your own, what other people perceive as you. Be yourself, and then people will like you for who you are. That's a lesson that I had to learn, and like, if anything, I still try to like teach myself that same lesson. Like even to this day, of like, it's okay that like I am a huge nerd for Banjo-Kazooie and want a Banjo 3, and like will listen repeat to your album for an unhealthy amount of time. That's fine. You know why? Because there are thousands upon hundreds of thousands of other people who feel the exact same way, who can relate. And that's the thing that I try to do my best here on this show. Like, being super introverted and having a hard time making friends, to now like doing this thing on the internet, trying to make friends with amazing people like yourselves, and hopefully share more information to other people about that type of, like this is like the goal of what I want to do. I want to have more friends, so therefore I use this opportunity that back then, if tell me I'm doing this 10 years ago, would have never believed. But I'm able to do this because I can find that safe space within the world of video games and all things pop culture, that I know that other people also care. I'm not alone. And, we have people like you to thank, because you help bridge that gap. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. It's cool.
No, I do get it. I think, I think sometimes people forget that, I meet plenty of people on these conventions who've had a hard life.
Right.
And they've had it's been even an abusive background.
Yeah, yeah.
But that little time they get with the video game sat in the bedroom by themselves for that couple of hours, they just they forget about the life and just get lost in the game. And I think that's, I guess it can happen with movies too. But I feel like video games particularly, because it's so interactive. And I just think that, a ton of people who have had, problems, who've just, in some respects, video games saved their lives and lots of times. And I think that's or you get people who remember playing, it could be any game, but say Banjo-Kazooie with the mother who was down of cancer. And I've had that a lot of times where they've had a parent or a relative or a brother or whatever. They used to play it together, and that person since passed away. But when they go back to play the game, it brings it all back to them, like sat there with that person. And I think it's that you forget that video games can really do that.
Yeah, 100%. There's something about these games that really attach to people, or people really get attached to. It is for rare games specifically. There's this weird mix of sarcasm, warmth, sincerity, right, with a lot of these titles. I want to ask you, like, why do you think these games had such a significant emotional identity?
I don't know. I guess I really attribute it to, like, Tim and Chris Stamp, who ran the company. Like, they were such great bosses to have, and most of the Stamper family worked at Rare, kind of thing all together. But Tim and Chris were the bosses, and they were always in total agreement. Tim was probably the kind of designy one. Chris was probably more the kind of programmer one. But they were just fantastic to work for, and they always had that. They wanted to make it tongue in cheek and a bit of fun in there. That was what they're always on about. They weren't. Tim especially wasn't that concerned about making any dark games. So I guess it wasn't so involved in Killer Instinct or GoldenEye or whatever. But he loved the kind of human conquer and, all the, and Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong and all that. So that was right up his street, So, I feel like I'm a better composer because of Tim Stamper. Because, I'd write something, he'd go, yeah, that's great. What about that? And there's always a what about, and you go, oh my God, I never thought of that, So I just think, Tim had that kind of genius streak about him, where, I love working with Tim and Chris. They're fantastic. The whole Rare environment was just spectacular. When I first got there in 95, they just had that gigantic hit with Donkey Kong Country 1.
Yeah.
Sold like 10 million copies, whatever. And it was just a revolution, right? And then GoldenEye was just starting when I got there. It was such a fantastic time to be there. And they'd already been making games for like 10 years at least prior to that. Like huge hits on the Spectrum, like they weren't nobodies. But they decided to leave it all behind, start again, reverse engineer the NES to make a game for Nintendo, and Nintendo couldn't believe it that somebody had reverse engineered it, made a game, and then they were like, these guys are serious. And then, I went from there, just spectacular. So I feel super lucky that I got that opportunity. And it's just absolute luck that Robin went to work there and then said, you've been on unemployment for like 11 years, don't you think you should get a job? I said, what can I do? He said, well, why don't you try doing this? So that was literally it.
Yeah.
So
it's all by chance.
Forever grateful to Mr. Robin Beanland and to the Stampers forever. Yeah.
Amazing. It's amazing. Like your story is incredible, and your life would be incredibly yours, not and countless others now would be majorly different if you didn't.
Very dull, I tell you. Yeah, I feel like I'd be like I was just like a pub rocker just prior to, getting the job at Rare, because the kind of big bands I played for all fell to pieces.
Right.
So I was just playing in pubs in Harrogate in North Yorkshire, and that would have been me. I would have got some crappy job and did that on the side, and that would have been it. Literally, I had no prospects whatsoever. So the fact that I fell into Rare at 33, when your first job at 33 is pretty late, right? So, crazy.
So nowadays, do you think modern games struggle to create musical identities as memorable as N64 era games, or even before?
Sometimes, but I think there's plenty of games that do it.
Right.
Like Claire Obscure. Everyone loves the soundtrack to that. That's kind of I guess it's kind of vocally string quartet-y thing. You got Austin Wintory who writes great stuff. Will Roger, he's got the fantastic theme from Helldivers and many others. So there's plenty of guys that do it, but there's equally people that don't. So I think, look at the draw, right? There's people that certainly write great tunes, there's people that don't. So, or just write generalized big epic music that's kind of unremarkable, and there's guys that really take the trouble. So I think it's a double. It's on both sides, right?
Right. What part of yourself do you think is hidden within your music that fans maybe don't consciously notice? I would assume nothing is hidden. Like, all of you is within all of your music, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think people are miserable, right? Most of the time. I think people think I'm this kind of happy, jolly, go lucky. I'm not that. I'm good at putting it on, but I'm not really not that person at all, really. If you ask my family, they'll tell you I'm miserable most of the time. And I guess I do like to write morose music, but I just don't get to do it very often. So, like in World of Warcraft, they gave me bizarrely enough, they gave me all the dark stuff in Shadowlands. Anything that was dark, I got that. So I was great. I was reveling in it. Or like Kings of Amalur, write super dark music. So, I do get to write that. So, yeah, I think people don't know that I guess people that know me and I'm miserable quite a lot of the time. But I do feel a bit like a lot of creative people are a bit like that. I think they are. I think that the BAFTA symbol's got, the two faces, the happy face and the sad face. That's the logo, right? And I feel like most artists have they've got the happy face, the front-facing face, and they've got the miserable face behind it that what you like really, or you're constantly questioning what you do, and you constantly think that you're useless, and constantly think that your music you write's crap or whatever it is. Like I do, and I feel like you're never really happy with anything you write. You think, it's rubbish,
Right.
So
you're your own worst critic.
Yeah, and so there's that. So yeah, I can be quite bad-tempered, unfortunately. So I don't come across that way, but I can be. I seem to jump from normal to 0 to 60 in 1 second a lot of the time. So I can be like that. But I'm equally, I can cry within a second. I'm a big crier. So any movies, or I feel like I'm quite. What's the word? Empathetic, whatever. I feel like I do feel that a bit. I feel people's genuine sadness. That makes me sad.
Right.
So, yes, I can be like that. So I feel like I'm quite emotional. So I feel like I can be equally go super bad tempered to super sad and to cry within 2 seconds, right?
You have a lot of strong feelings. I don't
know what it is. I feel like I just jump to the extremes instantly. There's no in between. It just goes instant cry, instant explosion. It's a bit like that.
Right. Understood. Okay. If someone had never heard your music before and they were to ask, what should they listen to? What piece would you tell them about who you are as a person? That's most difficult. You.
I know, but that's difficult, right? Because I guess I've written a lot of music in the last 31 years.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stuff that I really like that I've done. So I used to always say Bedtime Story from Viva Piñata. Viva Piñata 2. Like I really wrote that, and I feel like I pulled my heart into that, and it's a sad tune. Yeah, probably that one, I think. But I've written things that I'm proud of, like For the Galaxy from Mario Rabbids' Sparks of Hope. That's a great big kind of Star Warsy. I just wanted to go for that, that kind of thing. But I think emotionally, Bedtime Story is pretty up there, I think, for me. It kind of sums up what I'm like, I think. I don't know.
Right. So it's the most you within your work.
Probably, yeah.
That you've shared.
I think it bears, probably, something like that, I'd say, yeah.
Well, before we get into the speed round, I again just want to say that, at the risk of sounding like a broken record and repeating everything else that everybody says about you and to you, everything that I know about you is to put simply is that you are extraordinary in every sense of the word. It I mean that, and like I know you've already said that it's hard for you to take compliments and it's hard for you to to accept these types of things, but like it's come to a point for me where when I was in freshman sophomore year in college, I was in an English class, and I had to write a paper comparing like two people in my life, or not in my life, but two people that I know that I look up to, whatever. I decided to use that assignment to write about you and Koji Kondo.
All right.
I did, yeah. and the premise of the paper was just like here is a legend in the video game industry, Koji Kondo. He has set up so much. His work is legendary for like the early days of video games, Mario, Zelda, etc. Zelda is my favorite franchise ever. Right, it's my favorite video game series. I'm fortunate enough to be able to call Patricia Somerset, the voice of Zelda, a friend. She was on the show. Shout outs to her. Koji Kondo, he doesn't need any introduction. So I wanted to include you in that paper to not just compare and contrast, but to emphasize a point of like there are multiple ways someone can go about creating something meaningful to the general public, to a collective. And I feel like you stand out among many others to my eyes in the high regards with Koji Kondo because of how unique your stuff is, how unique you are, the person, Grant. You know, like I've watched many interviews over not just this week but over the years, you know, following your work, of course, just learning as a fan in a parasocial way, like who you are, and of course doing that research for Koji. Writing that paper was like my way of like also understanding to myself, like what do I also look for, what do I think is important when talking or thinking about video game music, why does that matter to me, all that stuff. I'm pretty sure like I sent a copy of that to your email in your website like years ago. The point is like your stuff, the trajectory of your life, the decisions you made has made a difference in the world. And that's just a fact. You know, so I just think it's really cool how you're able to continue doing that just based on doing the thing that you love. The passion you have for music is what drives you, and and the after effects is just freaking amazing. Anyways, ranting, gushing, all that stuff.
No. Obviously, you're very kind, but you know, it's just I don't think about that lots.
Right,
like,
right.
You know,
why would you?
No, it's cool that I get to do this job, and people still keep wanting to employ me, which is great.
Yeah.
Like, as I say, 31 years, who'd have thought it?
Yeah.
You know, and like, if I can put a smile on anybody's face, you know, whatever, and then I feel like my job's done. So yeah, it's, you know, and I say when it comes to Koji Kondo, he's clearly the Jedi Master. I feel like the rest of us are just Padawans, really. So yeah, I think that
he's the Yoda.
He is. Yeah.
You're the Mace Windu. We can leave it at that.
I'm not sure about that. Okay, but yeah. More like Jar Jar Binks, probably.
I love this. Okay, well, let's get into the speed round where I'm going to ask you a bunch of silly random questions, and we're going to see how you do. You ready?
All right.
Okay. If you were the final boss in a video game, what would your title be?
Oh, God, this is a difficult one. The Kirk.
The Kirk. I like that. What would your boss theme music be? And you can choose any song from anywhere or create one for yourself.
I'd just pick Gruntilda's tune, boss tune.
Love it. If you were a superhero, what would your name be and what powers would you have?
Oh, God, that's a hard one. I'd be granted. I'd grant wishes.
Nice, like a genie. Yeah, love it. Got it. Granted. I like that so much. Don't take you for granted. Hey. If you can live in the world of your favorite childhood show, movie, or game, which one would it be and why?
Well, childhood, I guess that's a long time ago.
We could do current. Who cares?
Yeah, well, I'd be Harry Potter, right? You know, and I love to live in that world and be in Hogwarts and all that shit.
Yeah.
But I guess as a kid, it was probably something like, what were you like? Well, with Thunderbirds or Captain Scarlet or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Which character from your favorite show, movie, or game would you most like to have as a friend in real life?
Dumbledore.
Great mentor. That's for sure. If your current favorite show or movie were to be adapted into a musical, what genre of music would you envision for it?
My favourite show right now, what's that? I'm watching, I guess The Boys is right. I like that a lot. I'm also really liking that Margot Needs Money. I forgot the title of it. It's out on Apple. That's a great show. Or Pluribus is a great show. But for The Boys, what would that be? Like, I'll be a rock band, I think, playing along with that, I think.
Right. I was thinking rock opera.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. If you could attend any fictional event, for example, the Ewok celebration and Return of the Jedi, which one would it be and why? Any fictional event.
I'd like to be at the end of Harry Potter 2 when Hagrid comes back, and it's a great, big, fantastic ending and a great score from John Williams right at the end. It's the biggest ending to any of the Harry Potter movies, like musically, and it's super nice that Hagrid's there. Everyone's clapping, everyone's crying, so I think probably would be that one.
I love that. What would your 14-year-old self think of who you are today?
I don't know about that, but he wouldn't believe it, that's for certain, because he wanted to be a metal guitar player at that point, and never once thought he could ever compose anything. So to actually end up being a composer but had zero harmonic knowledge would be amazing to me.
Amazing. Well, it is now time for you to recommend 3 people that you'll share this episode with whenever it comes out, that you think you'll be a good guest on the show, and if you can help me get them on the show.
How about Alana Pierce?
Oh, I would love to have her. Yeah.
Alana's super cool.
I had she's working on Layers Deep as the writer, and I had the developer, Josh Chambers, on the show. So yeah. I will love that.
She's great. I was chatting to her last night. She was at the Game University.
Cool.
And I'd say Erin Hansen, of course, from the Game University.
I will love that.
Erin's super cool. For a musician, I'm thinking about a musician. Who would that be?
David Wise already said yes. I'm just trying to get him to respond to me about scheduling.
David would be great. I'd say Austin Wintry. Austin's a great talker. He's got lots of good stories to tell.
Amazing. Yeah, I appreciate that. Let's do what we can to get them on the show. Yeah, I would love that. Do you have any final thoughts?
Thanks for asking me. That's about it, I think.
Well,
I'm not sure I'm a good listen, but that's, there you go.
If my Spotify can attest, you are more than good enough to listen to. Yes. No, Grant, like I said, you are amazing. This has been a dream come true of a conversation to have. And I am glad that, you took the time out of your very busy schedule to do this with me. And, I'm not going to gush anymore because I've done that enough. But, just thank you, really. And I'm glad to now be able to call you a friend. So thank you so much, Grant.
No, thanks for asking, Let's do it again some other time when something else happens.
I will love that. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, that's all the time we have for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode here on The Razzle Dazzle Show. If you want to hear more from Grant, be sure to follow him on his socials, check out his website and his music on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music. Be sure to let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet. Follow us on our socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to rate us 5 stars and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one.